Good morning, Amazing Love family and guests, and welcome to another Vision Sunday. We've got some great material here to share with you. Of course, I'm a little biased. I did put it together with the help of my team, but we think it tells a really nice story of some amazing stuff that has happened. And if you hadn't noticed, we are still in the midst of a global pandemic, a historical global crisis. And the material that we'll be sharing might kick you off your seat like it did me, because there's some pretty stunning information in there. And as a leadership team, we've made a very bold decision, and we're excited to share it with you. So with that, let's just jump right in. And one thing that we're going to be doing a little bit differently this year is consistent with our theme over the past 3 years. We want to make sure that we communicate effectively. So we're going to be sharing this in 3 different avenues. First, Sunday morning with you on live stream. Secondly, we're going to be posting it on Facebook, and we'll also be reaching out via email. So let's get right into it. So similar to how we've done this in past years, we're going to talk about what we did as a church in this last year and share some pretty impressive numbers. And if you hadn't noticed, we're in a bit of a historical global crisis, so we'll tell you what we did in the midst of a crisis, how we managed through that, and then finally, the bold decision that we are making today that's going to be the building blocks of setting us up for future success. So, 2019-2020 fiscal year. Yes, that number is correct. We had 300,804 offerings this last year. And the light blue number below that is our budget, 275,000. And if you remember last year when I gave this presentation, I was a little hesitant about putting that 275 number out there because we had a little bit of a instableness and turnover of some of our members, and we didn't know if we were sure we would get that. But we did our part, and God came through in flying colors. What that ended up doing, because we managed our expenses as an organization, is drove another $24,000 in profits. Again, we're a nonprofit organization, so we're not as concerned about the profits. But the interesting fact here is that even in our crisis, in the midst of our crisis, as an organization, we strengthened financially. An important point, because I'll come back to that in the future when we get to our bold decision. Wanted to take a few minutes to give you a little bit of perspective historically how Amazing Love is done. And I've shared some of this in the past. I've shared the offerings in the past. And we started to taper off 2016, 17, 18 on our offerings. We've seen tremendous growth over the first 10 years of our existence. And there you see the 2019-20 number of the 300,000 in offerings, which was a 16% growth over last year. Impressive numbers given how big we are. A new number I want to share with you, this equity. So if you're not an accountant, equity is simply assets minus your liabilities. As an organization, we have over $1 million in assets. Now, most of that is the church you see, the real estate, some other investments. Our liabilities is primarily our mortgage. The difference between those two is equity, and it's a picture of the financial strength of an organization. And you can see we've grown year over year over year, and we've held steady at almost a $300,000 equity position. As I say that with confidence, I also get a little hesitant when I see what we are sitting on, over $200,000 in cash in our banks today. So I threw this comment on the screen to leave that with you. One of the things that I'm nervous about is getting to heaven, looking God in the eye, and he's asking me, I blessed your church. What did you guys do with it? We couldn't think of anything better to do with it, God, so we gave it back. That is not this church. We are a forward-thinking church. We are an innovative church, as demonstrated through some of the things that we have done through the crisis, and we'll continue to stretch ourselves, give forth our best, and leave the rest to God. So yes, we are in the midst of a global crisis. Now, I know you guys are very familiar with the history of this. This crisis is so fresh. It just happened November 2019 when the first case arose in Wuhan, China. But what this is really telling us is that there's a lot of confusion, a lot of conflicting data, and a lot of cloudiness around here. So when we make our decisions, we put our heads together, and most importantly, we pray. We put our decisions in God's hands. We do the best we can with the church. We adhere to the guidance that is given to us and the direction that's put out there from the state of Illinois as we operate in. And we follow that as closely as we can to make sure we're setting good examples throughout this period. And we're known for not being a rebellious church, but one that is forward-thinking and innovative, what we are utilizing the blessings that we are given. So what are some of the innovative things that we did do? Well, we took some very swift actions as a leadership team. When the USA went into lockdown mode and the state of Illinois said, stay at home, what did we do? We stayed open. In fact, we moved our services online. And while we recorded the actual sermon in the past from Pastor, now we've got the entire online service on Facebook. You could worship from the beginning of service all the way through to the end. I know I've taken advantage of it. I know many of you have taken advantage of it. We've put a lot of investment into the capabilities of doing that. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm looking through 3 cameras. We get 5 different areas to broadcast in the church safely. And I want to emphasize that word. Yes, we stayed open, but we did it safely and responsibly. What else did we do? Illinois then, into the next phase, said you can gather indoors, but we're capping it at 10. Well, given the amount of resources we need for a very successful online live stream with our tech team, our unbelievably talented praise band, we fill up that 10 real quickly. So what we did was we brought the sacraments to you. And we took a page out of the restaurant book and said, hey, we're offering reservations. Come join us on Thursdays and Sundays. And you took full advantage of it. Illinois then got sued by religious organizations. And they said, we must worship. We are a critical organization. Well, we didn't partake in the suing. No, we got innovative. And we brought the church to you outdoors. We were able to accommodate all of the recommendations and the requirements of both the state and the CDC with social distancing and masks, and we stayed our 6 feet apart, and we worshiped. Over 50 people showed up on a beautiful Sunday, and I truly believe that was blessed by God, because we even saw some new guests that Sunday. Another interesting point here is that the government then came out, stepped in, and yes, that initial is correct. That's a $0.6 trillion stimulus package, the PPP package, which many of you may have heard of or are taking advantage of. And the whole point behind this was that they were stepping in to make sure they are saving struggling small businesses. We had the opportunity to take advantage of this, and we reached out to the Wells. We did our research. We did our homework. We asked, is this something that would be viewed in a dark light or a bright light? And the decision was really put back on us, going back to my previous slide about the cloudiness around this virus, that we ended up as a leadership team putting this to prayer, and we decided as an organization, seeing the numbers that we saw, we didn't need it. We were not a struggling organization. So instead of taking money from the government, we gave back. We gave back to our community. We started reaching out like we've never done before to our own church family members and our own community. We continue to grow and strengthen our own relationships, taking advantage of virtual opportunities. We brought Starting Point online. You saw the presentations from our teenagers with Access Point online. We started playing games online as a church. We grew through the pandemic, spiritually and relationshiply, if that is a such word. Our children's ministry, if you haven't been to church, come. Now that the doors are back open and the states allowed us to get back together, you have to see some of the amazing things that have been done, getting our children's ministry set up for the next stage. And many thanks to the Garcia family for all the work they put in. And I mentioned technology, and I just want to plug the amount of energy and effort and time that our tech team has done to give us Pastor every Sunday with amazing services and our praise band being played so beautifully through Facebook and live stream. Without the help of CJ and David and John, all of you guys that work on the tech team, I know it's an absolute army to bring our Sunday best. Finally, my last point here is that when the U.S. has reached the highest unemployment level ever with close to 15%, our stock market crashed it told us we're in a recession. What did we do? We gave more than ever before. All of you demonstrated unbelievable faith in God, that it's just money. You saw the $300,000 number as our offerings this year. Did you know that 2 out of the 3 highest giving months were actually during the COVID pandemic period of March and May? Amazing statistic. So we're not a church that looks in the rearview mirror. We look out in front of us. We look across our dashboard. Where are we going in the future? This is what the Vision and Vision Sunday is all about. First of all, we want to do more reaching. And I want to highlight the word that I emphasized here, being relevant in our own communities. That might be the first time I've ever used the word communities in my life, and I know you've heard me preach about being locally relevant in our own backyard. I'm just going to leave that with you and come back to that point. We're rethinking our Amazing Love brand. Now that we are online, are we doing it appropriately? Is there enough push that doesn't turn away people inadvertently? Do we have the right image? Do we have the right perspective? It's just things that may or may not make it to heavenly discussion one day, but something that we feel good about, that we could be proud of in the next 10 years, the next 20 years of Amazing Love's history. Our spiritual strengthening programs. Yes, we've had small groups before, but now we're turning into growth groups because it's not just getting together physically, but also online and virtually. We don't have excuses for not keeping together as a church family through our virtual approach to this. More focus on the family with marriage retreats, more focus on teens. I've got to steal this phrase from a friend of mine, equipping our own saints within spiritual, physical, and emotional. There's a whole course on this. This is something that we want to bring to all of you to make us better equipped as saints for Christ. We've got a flourishing ministry, but we want to take it farther. Our teen ministry, there is a such thing as a teen ministry in Amazing Love. We want to make it so that it is a leading ministry in Amazing Love, and that's really pushing the envelope. We invest in our youth. The youth becomes us tomorrow. Finally, building our resource base. This means we need a lot more volunteers. The volunteers that we have are unbelievably on fire with the Spirit. They bring their best. We need more of this. We need more from all of you that are sitting in the chairs that might not have an opportunity to help, to join the cause, to give with your time. We've got a lot of things to do on the docket, you can see. If any of these things jump out at you, please reach out to pastor or leadership team member. We'd love to work with you on this. One more plug, back to the youth. This idea of junior ambassadors, investing in our youth to be the leaders of the church tomorrow. And I'll come back to that too, so I'm going to leave that one with you. But let me come back to the communities comment. Do you remember this slide? I presented this about 3 years ago in my first Vision Sunday, and my theme here was that as a church, we are very distant. Every one of these pin drops is a member. We are spread out in 28 different cities, 320 of us, in multiple states. My point here is that if you were to draw a circle around and encompass all of us, all of our pin drops, the drive time from one end of the circle to the other, the entire diameter would be 75 miles or 2.5 drive time. And my point was that the average American only spends about 12 minutes on average driving to church. Is it realistic to expect this to be sustainable in the future? And my point was no. If we were to encompass a 12-minute drive time, that would only pick up 1/3 of our church. So we got to be more relevant in our own backyard. And I emphasize the word community. But I think God was pushing me to think differently, pushing us as a church to think differently about the word community. Because where we exist are all communities of opportunity. And going back to that circle, that 97-mile diameter circle, that encompasses 10 million people. The harvests are ripe for us, for our pickings. But we got to be able to witness, and we've got to be equipped to witness if we're going to do it successfully. So going back to the point of the junior ambassadors, we've got one in our community. We've got a lot of really good, exciting youth with passion for the Spirit. One that's actually technologically advanced, a heck of a lot more technologically advanced than I am. I can barely flip through these slides. And she put a little trailer together about all the amazing things that all of you did, all of what we did as a church through this pandemic. So I want to share that with you. So that's just one example of investing in our youth to be the leaders of tomorrow. Think about what we can do if we tap in to the talent that we have in our teens. And finally, the Vision Sunday. The brave, bold decision that we made as a church. We've got a lot to do. We've got a lot on the docket. We've got so much opportunity. As a leadership team, we didn't want to sit on the cash anymore. We wanted to put it to use. We wanted to invest in us. So we've made the decision to call a second called worker. And we want to convince you and get your support that this is right to take this church to the next level. We have a solid baseline. We've got the financials. We can't lean on that as an excuse anymore. We've shown how solid this church is. And even when we thought we couldn't achieve what we wanted to really put out there with regards to budget and stretch ourselves, we surpassed it by 16%. We believe we are set up for success. There is a lot to do, and the time is now for us to get to heaven and say, we gave it our all, God. We believe we must reach out to a second called worker and bring in more resources to take this church to the next level. So we're looking for your support, and we're going to be spending some time after this service to take your Q&A. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also be reaching out to you on Facebook and email to get your input as well. But my last point I wanted to make here, you've seen this before in my first two Vision Sunday presentations. This is our mission. This is our vision. This is bringing our guests in and turning them into members. But if we're not equipping ourselves, turning ourselves into true disciples, equipped with how to approach someone new, understanding really where the juice is, we won't be able to do the verb in our mission, truly reach, become the witnesses that Jesus wants us to be. We believe that moving in the direction with the bold decision that we've made will get us to be better witnesses, better disciples for the Great Commission. Thanks for your time this morning.